Should I have like one of those really corny YouTube intros? You know, with like the text. It'd be so awful. Today I wanted to answer one of the most popular questions I get, which is, how do you get that tone? The tone being just that super modern, crunchy, low gain, single coily, split coily, compressed tone. And that's exactly what I'm gonna show you how to get. I'm gonna be using my wah 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 tone for reference, because that's pretty much what I've been using in all of my videos. So now we'll demo the tone just real quick so you can hear it. I'm not putting that in. Don't put that in. So for my DAW, I'm just using Mixcraft 8. It's not the best DAW in the world, but it lets me track, and that's about all I need. But I'm really just using Archetype Cory Wong, multi-band compressor from FabFilter, and then also the Pro EQ from FabFilter. So the compressor pedal is on. All of the knobs are kind of at about 1 o'clock or so. That just helps my chords stay even in volume, my tapping stay even, my tap harmonics stay even. It really brings out everything just a bit nicer, and yeah. Big Rig Overdrive, I'm using it pretty much just as a boost pedal, and it's not even that much of a boost. The drive is very low, and the level is also pretty low. Like it's just to push it a bit more. So moving on to the amp, I'm using the third head with the second cab. The volume of the amp is pushed all the way, which luckily Cory Wong has a master volume on his amp, thank God, and also master output just on the plugin in general. The reason why the volume is so much is because when you push amps, they tend to break up afterwards, and you'll notice that this amp has a drive switch but doesn't have any drive control, and I also just don't really like the drive of it. So, and I find it's just a bit harder to get the crunchier tone with this amp, but this amp sounds really good. So that's why we push the volume. No delay on, very minimal verb. Believe it or not, the pedal called The Wash can get very washy. So even though it sounds like there's a decent amount of verb on it, just like very short-lived, it can get a little extreme. Most of the time, I'm not using this for my verb though. In fact, most of the time I'm using Guitar Rig 5 for just my verb. In fact, I have a preset called Just for Verbs, because I think the ice verb sounds really cool. For the pitch shifting stuff that I do for a lot of my tones, I'm just using the Guitar Rig 5 pitch pedal, and I'm just putting that up an octave. And then for the lower octaves, I tend to copy and paste my guitar tracks and then process them a little bit differently and just put them down a lower octave. FabFilter multiband compressor. I have the frequencies from like 80 to 250 compressed usually. Now what does that do? Now I learned this trick when creating heavier tones for like gent stuff. Basically the idea is that palm mutes get kind of flubby and don't sound as tight as they actually should or can, and can kind of kill a lot of things. Dead notes are kind of similar to palm mutes in the way that they react on the frequency spectrum. They're both kind of just very short, staccatoed, like sometimes pretty low notes. So I pretty much always am running this multi-band compressor for when I'm playing dead notes, which is all of the time, just to keep them a little bit tighter. So for my FabFilter EQ, I haven't done much, but I just know that what I've done here made it sound better than it did before. I have a low cut on about 80 Hertz because that's about where the low E string falls on the frequency spectrum. And if we have too much of that frequency in there, chords for one are gonna explode with low notes and it's not gonna sound good. I've had times where it's like I can't even hear the other notes in the chord that I'm playing. These two little spikes are problem frequencies. They'll vary depending on your guitar, your woods, your setup in general. And then because we have the treble knob so high up on our amp, I've also done a pretty lengthy high cut. And that's pretty much all there is to the tone. There's really not much to it. I don't use too many other tones, and other than like the slightly higher gain for the solo in Time Machine. But that was really just like taking the same tone and pushing the Big Rig Overdrive a bit more. Hopefully this was helpful for you guys for creating your own tones similar to this, you know, the modern crunch tone that all the cool bands are using. I'm still kind of new at this whole process, so if there's things that you're like, I probably wouldn't do that, you're right, you probably shouldn't do that. This is just a suggestion on how to get closer to the kind of sound you're chasing. Anyways, hope this helped. Thanks.